Hey, what's up, guys? Got another new video here for you. This is Tuned in Sports. My name is Bryson.
I'm Steve.
And today we've got another NBA division breakdown video here for you. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Southeast Division in the NBA, which is the Hawks, the Hornets, the Heat, the Magic, and the Wizards. Like I've said in previous videos, make sure you go check out the past videos. We've got 4 other ones up already. And we've got this one and one more to go because there's 6 divisions in basketball. So if you guys are interested in hearing our thoughts, I have other videos where I talk with Bennett, and then we'll have a couple ones here where Steve is on here. So we're going to push these out, and we're just having fun doing it. So make sure you check out the other ones in the series and stay tuned for more. So with that being said, let's hop right into it with the Washington Wizards here. Obviously the Wizards, they made a pretty big move over the offseason, sending John Wall to the Rockets, plus a first-round pick or whatever, and then they got Russell Westbrook. Obviously, I'm a huge Russell Westbrook fan, so I hope the best for this team. I hope he succeeds in Washington and plays to his potential. I think he's a great player, and I hope he really does well this season. With that being said, it's going to be interesting to see. I feel like the East is kind of shored up a little bit, and I feel like the East is actually starting to make up some ground a little bit. For a while I felt like it was kind of like the West had like a lot of good teams, and then the East had, 3 or 4, and then everybody else was just subpar to, nobody else really had a chance. But I feel like at least this specific year, the East is going to be really tough. And honestly, a big reason why I feel like they're going to be tough, some of it comes from teams in this division, as a matter of fact. But speaking directly about Washington, they definitely got some players, obviously, the obvious, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. But then they also have, Bertans, who they just re-signed, which, he's turning out to be a pretty decent player. They also have Robin Lopez on their team this year. I heard about that one. And they just got some decent players in there, Shabazz Napier, I always thought he had a good game. Ish Smith is a decent backup. Mo Wagner, I haven't seen too much of him, but I've heard good things. But, I'm just saying, I feel like they got some decent players. And then, of course, J-Rob, from the Clippers, he's actually played pretty decent since he's been in Washington. I feel like they got some players, and I feel like they got some stars, but I feel like this team is really just missing something in terms of taking what they have to the next level. I feel like bringing Russ and having Bradley Beal legitimizes this team, but I don't think it's enough to take it over the top at this point. I think they need to make some trades or some free agent moves to bring in people. I don't know what their cap situation looks like, but I feel like this roster of people is not going to get it done.
No.
But it definitely puts them in a better spot than they were. Mm-hmm. Just bringing Russ alone already takes this team to a better spot than they were. Now, if John Wall was healthy and playing all these years, might be a different story. But that wasn't the case.
Right.
And they weren't sure what he was going to look like going into this season. So, what they did in terms of getting Russ, I feel even if John Wall goes to Houston and plays lights out, I feel like they made a great trade. Mm-hmm. I really feel like that was a great trade for them, even if John Wall goes to Houston and does well.
Yeah.
I feel like that was an excellent trade. I would have done it every day and twice on Sundays over to bring Russ in for a guy that's unreliably injured all the time. And bring in a NBA League MVP for one guy that hasn't even played in 2 years and a first-round pick. Shoot, please. So.
No, I would agree. I think, Russ showing up there, like you said, it legitimizes things. And I think he's going to have a huge impact on Bradley Beal. I mean, Bradley Beal is a great player and scored a lot anyway. But now that Russ is there and is able to create, and, they're going to have to kind of be aware of Russ is all the time, that's only going to open up the opportunities for him to score even more.
Yes, absolutely.
Bradley Beal is probably one of the best shooters in the game right now. Not to mention, the Wizards actually have got some nice pieces there. Like you said, I don't think they got everything they need to be super competitive, but I think, they're not far away from actually probably contending, to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
I figured they're probably going to be somewhere around 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that area when it comes down to the end of the season. Just because I think Westbrook is going to mean that much. And, Westbrook is a playmaker. He doesn't mind passing the ball. He'll do pretty much anything it takes to win the game. He's not a selfish player whatsoever. And he'll out-hustle you. And the other thing he does well is play defense. So, with that being said, it's hard to argue that this wasn't a good move, especially when you figure they got rid of, I don't know how they even did it. Because the fact that anybody would be willing to take John Wall at this point is beyond me.
When I heard that he was looking for a trade out of there, I was like, good luck with that one. I don't know who's going to be.
Why would you even bother? He was still under contract and getting paid all kinds of millions of dollars to basically just sit there and do nothing.
Yeah.
What a great situation, But, with that being said, I always thought John Wall was a very talented player.
Yeah.
And a very good player. So, I hope for his sake that he comes back healthy. And so far from what we've seen in the preseason, he looks damn good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if he can't come back to a level where he was similar to what he was before he got injured, the Rockets are getting a hell of a player out of it.
Yeah, it works out good for both sides. And honestly, it makes the Rockets look pretty smart if he's able to, because, they got a first-round pick, and they basically just swapped. I feel like Russ is probably, even before John Wall got injured, I'd probably say Russ is a little bit better. But I'm just saying John Wall, when he's healthy, is not too far behind.
No, John Wall is,
he's more than serviceable. Great
player.
He's probably just one of those guys that maybe just be outside the all-star caliber. But and then a first-round pick on top of that. That's more than equitable for the Rockets as well. But I just feel like the Wizards. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I feel like they are trending in the right direction. I don't feel like they have all the pieces yet, but I feel like they're going to be a tough out, though. Like, anybody that has to play them in the first round, it's not like, phew, thank goodness we get to play Washington. We could have played it. We may have had to play somebody else. They're going to be like, all right, we got to play Washington. We better be ready for a series here. And, in another video where me and Bennett were talking about one of the other divisions, the way that I kind of see it is, you got the 6 for sure teams, in my opinion, which is the Raptors, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Heat, the 76ers, and the Nets. I feel like those 6 teams are for sure going to be really good this year. We'll see with the Raptors, but I feel like the moves those other teams have made, as well as where they've been in the past, will dictate to me that they will probably be the top 6. And then in the 7 and 8, I see a couple of different people being the Wizards, the Hawks, and
Indiana?
Yes, Indiana. Because, Indiana. So those are kind of the three teams that I see battling it out for 7, 8, 9. And I feel like the Wizards, to answer the question, do I think they will be a playoff team? I think the Wizards will be battling for 7, 8, 9, and I think they will make it. Maybe as the 8. I think, So that's kind of where I see them. As a team that's good enough to get in the playoffs, but, there's just so many other really good teams in the East that are only getting better, and the Wizards are part of that, but it's just they're getting better from down here, where the other teams are up here already and they're getting better.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough sledding, and I mean, like I said, I see them getting into the playoffs, probably not doing much in the playoffs. If they do make it, I see them probably being a first-round exit. However, I do think they could surprise somebody. I do think that's a possibility. Like I said, they got some pieces and some players, but I look for them, especially if they're doing better than I think people would expect them to. I look for them to be, if they want to win, which I think they do, just based on some of the moves they've made, I see them being an active team at the trade deadline, and a couple trades, couple pieces brought in here and there. We could be looking at one of those teams that has a shot to come out of the East.
Yep.
But the way it's constructed right now, I just think they're a little bit too far away right now. But that's not saying they can't get to that point. But I don't think, bringing in Russ, what means that they're expecting to win it all this year anyways. I think that was just a step towards building towards the future, and that was a great step. So in the coming years, they're going to be a team to watch out for sure. But I don't know if this is going to be the year yet.
Yep.
But they're working towards it, and I'm happy to see it.
No,
because Wizards have been pretty bad for a while.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, they're definitely a team on the rise. They got some nice young talent there to mix in with, the proven talent that they have. Like I said, Bradley Beal is definitely one of the elite players in the league, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they, make the playoffs. I think it'll be near the bottom, but all you got to do is get in to have a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
And by then, some of the younger players may have, gelled. Some will overperform what their expectations were, and some may underperform. But
yeah,
for the most part, I mean, they got enough talent on this team, I think, to be able to be competitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's really all you can ask for as a fan is to have a relevant team. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right, speaking of which, let's go ahead and get into the next team. We're going to talk about next the Atlanta Hawks. Now, obviously going into this season, they weren't really sure what to expect, or at least going into this offseason. You got Trae Young, you got a couple of pieces, but weren't really sure what they were going to do. And then the offseason came, and they really put the hammer down, I feel, and really made an effort to get better. They made a lot of trades and really tried to get better. They brought in Bogdanovich from the Kings, which I felt like was a great move by them. Why the Kings wanted to get rid of him boggles me.
Typical move.
Yeah.
Typical.
Exactly.
Move.
Exactly. And speaking of which, you guys want to have a laugh, listen to the Kings section of the division breakdown that we did. But anyways, they brought in Clint Capella. They got John Collins. They also brought in Gallinari, and and Rondo as well. I forgot about that. They brought in Rajon Rondo. So I feel like they made a lot of moves that would suggest to me that they're trying to get better, which is good. And I feel like they're actually pretty deep.
Yes.
I feel like they got a pretty deep roster. Yeah, Chris Dunn is a good player as well. However, again, I feel like this is just kind of a situation where they're getting better, but they're getting better from here, and everybody else is up here still. And I feel like the moves that they made are a step in the right direction, but I mean, I think that they've got a lot of good, solid players, and Trae Young is obviously probably going to be a star in the future of the NBA. He'll probably be one of the top point guards for the coming years. But I just don't know what this team is going to do. We're talking about this year specifically. I mean, if you're talking about this year specifically, like I said before when we were talking about the Wizards, I believe that this is a team also that could fight for 7, 8, 9. I feel like those teams will be pretty close to each other. They usually are. And I feel like this will be a team that's fighting for the 7th, 8th seed. And it wouldn't surprise me if they were at the end of the season maybe an 8th seed or a 7. But going into the playoffs, I wouldn't consider them an easy out, but I just don't think that they have enough to really take it to the next level yet. But I think they're getting there, and this is a much better team going in than they've had in years past, all around from top to bottom.
I think talent-wise, they got enough to be in the top 4 seeds. I think it's just going to depend on how quickly things come together for them. And if some of these guys that they brought in end up being good fits and everybody plays together nicely, this is one team you ain't going to want to see in the playoffs because they got enough talent to beat you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the backup, the bench, I mean, they're going to be solid. I mean, Chris Dunn, Capella, some of these guys, Bogdanovich, I mean, those guys are no joke. They can, Bogdanovich especially, that guy can put some points on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Trae Young, enough said. That guy can score from all over the damn place. So, I mean, I think talent-wise, I don't even know what the expectations are, truthfully. Like, I don't know what should they be even.
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion, talent-wise, this is a team that definitely should be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Talent-wise.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not they can gel. Because ultimately, I feel like they got a chance to make some noise if they get in the playoffs, not just be in it. Like, they can make some noise.
Yeah.
I really feel that way. I mean, with all the pieces they brought in and the shooters they have, and, I mean, what was already there, John Collins is a wonderful player. I really look at this team and say, hey, they're legitimate. They're a legitimate, they could feasibly come out of the East. That's how I feel about them.
Wow.
Okay. I realize, that, you got your staples there with the Bucks and, the Heat was in it last year.
And
some
the
of
Celtics are never out of it. And...
Right. I mean, and I realize that those teams are good, but I'm saying potential-wise, with the talent this team has, there is no reason that they couldn't make some serious noise.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I also think that this team is a team that is, on paper has the potential to, like you said, make it and make some noise. My only thing is that I feel like I don't know how they're going to gel, and I'm not sure if this is going to be the year that everything kind of comes together. I feel like this is kind of this year is going to be a situation where they make the playoffs but aren't able to do much. And like I said, I see them at kind of like a 7 or 8. But like you said, I think their ceiling though could be a lot higher than just scraping into the playoffs. Yep. What their potential ceiling could be, a team that really makes some noise. Not, like he said, not just makes the playoffs, but is in the playoffs and is a force to be reckoned with. Right. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case this year. But I see them being a lot better, though. I mean, I really do think that they're doing some good things, and they're trying to get better. And, I mean, as a fan of the team and just a fan of basketball in general, that's what you want to see. Yep. Is some of these teams make an effort and try to get better at least. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes it kind of feels like teams are just, I mean, we don't need to necessarily go there because we talk about it on all the things, but sometimes, which I guess is a good way to transfer into our next team, the Charlotte Hornets, sometimes you just get these teams that it just feels like they're satisfied with being bottom of the barrel lottery pick every single season, and they never get better. Yep. Even though they have lottery picks, so they should be getting top tier talent and should be improving. But then you'll see, a situation like this year with the Warriors where they got whatever that power forward or center's name is, Wiseman, right, for the Warriors, and watch him turn out to be the next all-star or something, and then the people that are struggling that were next to them, like the person that picked first, and then this team with LaMelo Ball, and the person that picked fourth and fifth, all their players you won't hear about them in a couple years, or they'll be bench players. Yeah. But then the guy for the Warriors will be the next star in this league. Yeah. And I mean,
it's all about having the pieces around you.
Well, that too. But I mean, I'm just saying the Hornets, for example, is a team where it seems like year to year we got they're in the top however many picks, lottery every year, and so you should be amassing some talent, but it just never seems like they do anything. Yeah. And to me, like we talk about with the Lions and with other things, I mean, you got to point the finger at ownership, because this isn't just since they've been the Hornets. No. Think about when they were the Bobcats. No, that was even worse.
This is Michael Jordan's team.
Yeah, and this is Michael Jordan's team.
So,
yeah.
I mean, the fact that Michael Jordan allows the team to be this horrible is beyond me, because, I mean, this guy was nothing but Mr. Competitor his whole life in everything that he does. And yet he allows the Hornets to be the laughing stock of the league. And it blows my mind that he can be so competitive in everything that he does, and then yet have this be the product that they're putting out there. Now, I will say this. I think there's been some nice moves made by. Are we moving into the Hornets? We
are. That's what.
So moving into the Hornets, like we just said, Michael Jordan's the owner. The team has primarily been, underachievers for years. Never been able to amass the talent to get good. Now we can point fingers at Michael or whoever, but I will say this year, looking at this roster, I do believe that they got a lot of nice pieces, young players. The jury's out on LaMelo Ball. I mean, he looks like he's got some game. Supposedly not a real good shooter, which doesn't surprise me, because either was Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, it's long. Yeah.
And whatever. None of the balls seem to be great shooters.
Yeah.
Very good ball handlers, good floor generals, things of that nature. So, I mean, I expect him to have an impact. If he can play like Lonzo, that's fine. because that means he's going to be distributing and getting people involved and doing things to help.
What a point guard is supposed to do.
Right. I mean, he'll be able to help. But as I look at the roster, they really do have some nice. They have some nice young talent. And then they just picked up Gordon Hayward. If he's healthy, he can be a difference maker. Yeah. Miles Bridges isn't bad. Mm-hmm. Bismack Biyombo, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he was huge in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's solid. Terry Rozier, he's a good player.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even realize that they had both of the Martin brothers from Nevada.
Yeah, they do.
That's cool. So I'm just saying, when I look at this roster, I don't see horrible.
No.
But I don't see playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they're going to.
And then Bridges is a great player as well in his own right too. So
I think this is one of those teams where, this is going to be one of those teams in the, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 area, where they're going to get better, and it may take a year or two until they can complete it. Mm-hmm. But I think in the upcoming seasons, you could see this being a playoff team.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you could see them being the next kind of Orlando where they're in it, and have some, or I would say even Pacers. They could be like the Pacers where they're once in a while are a 4 seed or 5 or something. But yeah, this season, like I said, before the reason and Malik Monk too, he was a rookie last year, I believe, and he looked like he might be able to ball some. Yep. So, they've got some. It seems like finally some of these people, Cody Zeller too, there's another guy, he's not a bad player at all. But, I feel like this is a team where in past years, it just seemed like it's first, lottery pick, but you never see them improving. And I think finally some of the pieces are starting to come together. But, in some respects, I feel like, you could say, well, how come what can they do if they're drafting people and they're just not working out or whatever? Yeah, that's true. But in some respects, the fact that they haven't been able to do any better than pretty much last in the conference year to year is ownership and is management not putting effort forth. Because you can't tell me that you have all these lottery picks and you're just picking busts every single time. There's got to be something wrong with the way that you're going about doing it, or who you're scouting, or maybe how the people you're drafting actually fit into your team. And also I think it's a situation where, coaching carousels, people come in there, have only a couple years before they're out. Next guy comes in, has a completely different direction for the team.
Yeah.
Looking at new players, want their guys. It's the usual thing. But all I'm going to say is I feel like, again, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself, but I'm about to. Another situation where a team, they're making some good moves. Seems like they're getting better, but they're starting from way lower than other teams that are also doing the same thing. So at the end of the day, what's that going to equal? Probably them being around the same spot that they were.
Well, I think one thing I will say for this team, I do think with the roster that they've composed here, I think they're going to be interesting to watch. I think they'll be a fun team to watch. I think you'll see, a lot of scoring, and I think they're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think they're going to disappoint on that end of it.
No.
It's just going to come down to, like I said, with the other team, how things gel together. Because, they've added some nice pieces here. So, I'm not suggesting for a second that there's not going to be noticeable difference from last year's team. Maybe there will, maybe there won't. But, I feel like they're going in the right direction, and they've started to assemble some nice pieces here. And, ultimately, you want a product on the floor that people want to come watch. Mm-hmm. And I think this roster has a possibility of having that. So
yeah, no, I agree. This isn't just a throwaway. A bunch of old guys past their prime that had nowhere else to go. So Charlotte said, "Oh, well, maybe we can get some people to come down here and watch Tony Parker play his glory." Think back on Tony Parker's younger years as we watch him run around here. You know what I mean? Kind of like the last handful of seasons. Yeah. So, I mean, no disrespect to Tony Parker or anything. I'm just saying, that's kind of what that feels like sometimes. I mean, I liken it to when the Timberwolves, a handful of years back, brought in Kevin Garnett, at the end of his career to finish playing there because that's where he started. Mm-hmm. But, everyone knew that they weren't winning anything. They just brought him back and said, "Oh yeah, we'll suit him up because fans might like to see him back in the T-Wolves uniform." But that move wasn't going to win them anything. Mm-hmm. They just wanted to put butts in the seats. So at least this, like he said, this combination of players. The only thing I will say is I do feel like they pretty heavily, in my opinion, they pretty heavily overpaid for Hayward. I feel like he, when he's healthy, can be a valuable piece, and he played really well in Utah, but he didn't really play much and didn't really play that well when he did play in Boston. And so I feel like they spent star quality money on a guy that is a glorified role player. I mean, I think he's really good, but I don't see him being an all-star or anywhere really close to it. Mm-hmm. I think he's just a really good scorer. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between a scorer, let's put it this way. There's a difference between Lou Williams and Dwayne Wade. You know what I mean? It's like Lou Williams is great at what he does best, but he's not that great of an all-around player. And if the whole game came down to whether or not Lou Williams was going to perform at a high level, you probably aren't winning a lot of times because he might catch fire and stuff, but let's just say there's a reason he's not a starter. And I feel like that same can be said with Gordon Hayward. If how good they are depends on the success of Gordon Hayward, I'm sorry, but I don't see him doing much. Because I think he's good, and I think in the right system he can be a better than good, but they paid him as if he is the guy, and I don't think he's that caliber, to be honest with you. But whatever. I mean, at least they're trying to bring people in, I guess. Right. So that's better than we've seen from them in years. Yeah. So here we go. All right, next team. Let's get into the Miami Heat. Obviously they lost in the finals to the Lakers. But, with that being said, they were going through some injuries during that series. I think Jimmy Butler only played in like half the games, if not less. And they still took them to 6. So, I mean, I feel like this is a team that is just set up to do really, really well. Truthfully, I think that they have everything needed to, come out of the East again. And the thing that I love about this team, too, is that a lot of their players that are high caliber that everyone's excited about. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. A lot of these guys are on their rookie contracts. So they're not even getting paid yet. And same can be said for Kendrick Nunn, too. They really like him a lot. But again, another guy, rookie contract. So they're not having to pay these guys yet. So what does that mean? Not only can they have these guys that are great players in their own right and going to be good moving forward, but until they have to pay these guys, they can spend that money that would otherwise be having to be devoted to these guys on other pieces, like Goran Dragic, like bringing in Bam Adebayo and Maurice Harkless and a bunch of different people. Myers Leonard from Portland, I believe he was from, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying, like, they can spend the money that would otherwise be going to, we got to pay, Tyler Hero his money, and then we got to pay Duncan Robinson his money. Oh, on top of that, we got Jimmy Butler. Now we can't afford anybody else. So in this small window where that is the case, this team can be extremely dangerous. And I'm not saying that once they have to pay these guys, they're going to go to suck by any means. But I'm just saying, while money is still kind of free flowing and they can afford to throw in all the chips because they've got the money and they're not having to pay some of these young up and coming guys that are big players for this team, they can be seriously dangerous. Mm-hmm. No, and they are. Yeah. And they are. And I think that is a big part of why that is the case.
No, I agree.
Is because two of the best players on their team are on their rookie contracts, basically getting paid as if they're bench. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, they are going to have to pay these guys at some point. But, it allows them to have free reign to bring in Avery Bradley and Andre Iguodala and Maurice Harkless and, just some of these players. Kelly Olynyk, same thing. Miles Leonard, like I said before. And then also have guys like, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, too, who are a little bit more expensive. Same with Iguodala, a little bit more expensive, but they're not having to spend all this money on these young guys yet. Mm-hmm. And so that makes this team just super, super, super good. Yep. I kind of liken it to when the Thunder had Harden, Durant, and Westbrook. It was the dream. Yep. But they drafted all those guys, so they weren't having to pay all of them. If they were a couple years in and they had to pay all of them, well, there's your team right there. Because you're not going to be able to afford, to pay all them max money and then build a team around them. Right. And that's kind of the situation that the Heat are in right now. Because they're not having to pay these guys max contracts or whatever, they're able to be a little bit more active and work around trying to bring in other people. And if they can get it right and keep people healthy, I think they already have it right. I think this is a team right here that could win the finals this year. They have it right. The key is going to be, and I feel like they already are playing together well. I feel like they're one of the best teams when you talk about teams, not a bunch of individuals suited up in the same uniform. I'm talking about team basketball. They're one of the best teams in the NBA. Yeah. The key is going to be, can everybody stay healthy, avoid COVID, and matchups. Mm-hmm. Because there are some matchups that could produce some problems for them. However, I give them a chance against anybody. Mm-hmm. I don't care who, I don't care where, I don't care when. I give them a chance against anybody. Like I said, last year, making it to the finals, the way they performed, even with people hurt, proved to me everything I needed to know. And just the fact they made it proved to me what I needed to know. But then the way they performed, taking the Lakers to 6 with so many injuries they were dealing with, shoot, this team is for real.
No, I agree.
And that's just the way we're looking at it right now. They still got trade deadline and stuff. They who knows what they could do with that.
Yeah. No, they got a lot of pieces in place already to make another run. And then they're real excited about this Precious Achiuwa. He's kind of got some unique talents.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be one that, they're going to find that they're going to use him a lot more than maybe they had planned initially.
Uh-huh.
He could be a missing piece. And, a guy like Goran Dragic, he's great guard, solid play. Tyler Hero's turning into somebody that's probably going to end up going to an all-star game or two before it's said and done.
Yeah.
You know.
Or 12.
Yeah. Jimmy Butler, as much as I've been a Jimmy Butler hater, I'd be foolish to sit here and say anything other than that the guy's a great player.
Yeah,
he is. I haven't appreciated.
And he's made a world of difference on this team.
Yeah. No, and I mean, regardless. A lot of this has to do with people understanding roles.
Yeah.
Like, people know Jimmy's the guy.
Yep.
And, Avery Bradley, a perfect fit for a team like this.
Yeah.
Very good player, but understands the role. Mm-hmm. He's not like, oh, I gotta be the guy. He can play whatever you need him to do.
Yeah.
He's a really good defender. I mean, Bam Adebayo, another perfect example of a guy that excels in the role he's in. Mm-hmm. And
Iguodala too. I mean, especially at this point in his career, he's used to being whatever the team needs, and he's got playoff experience and stuff too, and championship. Yep. And plus, he can put up points if you need him to. Yep. I mean, this
is a perfect, like you said, a team. This is a nice assembly of good talent with guys that understand roles and how to be used. And I mean, what's even the best thing about this for these guys is that the young talent that they have are able to learn from these guys that have been around.
Yep.
And, a guy like Bradley or whatever can take a guy like Tyler Hero and mold him and teach him Iguodala can teach him all the stuff that he needs to know.
Yep.
And, that's such an advantage to have, especially as you get closer to playoff time, where, you never know when you might be needed. Mm-hmm. People go out every day. Somebody sprains an ankle. Somebody, tears an ACL.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and it's all about opportunity. And so when you get some of these young players, like you just said, you're putting them in a position where they can go out and exceed, and now you're not really, you haven't had to pay them the money that you will have to pay them. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, this team, on paper looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of nice pieces, and I'm in agreement with you. I don't see them, being too far from where they were last year. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I'm not suggesting they're going back to the finals, but they could.
Yeah, I see anybody that beats them is going to have to play some damn good basketball. and the other thing is too, is like he said a mouthful too when he was saying about how first of all, winning breeds success. When you got winning organization and you got winning history and you got people that have won coming in to mold the team, these young guys and stuff are already coming in with the confidence of, shoot, we got this. And so you got a guy like Precious, or whatever his name is, who's a first-year player, and he's like, shoot, I got Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, all these names and stuff, and I have no doubt that he'll turn into the same thing as like probably a Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson, where he just steps in there and you're like, holy shoot, how did they get him?
Well, let's start with this. I mean, you walk into the building, the first thing, you first walk into the building, Pat Riley's standing there.
Yeah.
I mean, Pat Riley, if he doesn't breed winning, nothing does.
Yeah.
That guy's won everywhere he's went.
Yeah.
And I mean, his resume speaks for itself.
Yep.
I mean, he's coached the Magic Johnsons of the world. I mean, he knows what top level talent is.
Yeah.
And so when you have, like you just said, winning breeds winning, and when you put yourself in, around successful people, you're only bound to be successful.
Yep. Well, and then, like I said, with that Precious guy, I mean, we're looking at teams like Charlotte that are constantly drafting in the top 5, and the guys they draft are out of the league in a couple years. But then you got this guy, Precious, that, nobody, I've never even heard of him, but watch him turn into a huge player. You know what I mean? And it's simply because they know what they're looking for, too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of the problem that some of these teams have is they draft people. Sometimes, let's put it this way, sometimes drafting the best player available is not drafting the best player for your team. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the Heat know what they're doing when it comes to that.
Yeah.
They draft the best player for their team who happens to also be a good player, as opposed to drafting the best player first and then hoping they're a good fit for the team. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the Heat have it down. But it's not hard to have it down when, again, you got Pat Riley and some of these guys. I mean, they just have their aroma is winning. Uh-huh. And it has been. I mean, they got legends in Miami and stuff, and so it is what it is. But I see that team being serious once again. Would not be surprised at all if they go to the finals. Wouldn't be surprised at all if they win it either.
Yeah.
I think they have the pieces, the coaching, everything to win it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if they face the Lakers again, I give them a chance. I think they'll give them everything that they could ask for when it comes to that. But whatever. Anyways, we'll see what happens with that. Let's get into the last team here, Orlando Magic. They're kind of a strange team because they're like one of those teams that always bounces around in like the 9, 8, 7 area. They'll scratch their way into the playoffs. Last year I think they made it in as a 6. They'll scratch their way in the playoffs, but nobody really considers them. I mean, I feel like they're a typical team when you think about the East. They're a team that's constantly in the playoffs, but does anybody really give them a chance to do anything? No.
Right.
Whereas in the West, that's not always the case. The 6, the 7, the 5s, they're solid teams. Whereas in the East, in the past, you got a team like the Magic sitting there, and you're like, okay, well, somebody's getting a first-round bye. I mean, it usually results in a sweep. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're getting better, and they have some players. Obviously, the obvious one is Aaron Gordon. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they also have Markelle Fultz, who they really like, who's another young player. Terrence Ross, one of my favorite players in the league. Also, Vucevic also, last year he missed a lot of time with injuries, but, if he's good to go, that'll make a big difference for this team. And then Evan Fournier, good player. James Ennis, III, also another really good player. Michael Carter-Williams is solid, as well as I also like Ennis. Ennis. I may have already mentioned him, but regardless. And then Al-Farouq Amino's not bad either. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like they got some names on here. The biggest issue with this team is, Aaron Gordon, I feel like he's an exciting player. But not only are the exciting players what takes you to the next level. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, Vince Carter, I guess. Well, I don't know if Vince is a good example because he could play too. But, there's been a lot of guys that, wow, when you watch him, it's a highlight reel. Watch him dunk on somebody, But that doesn't always mean that he does other stuff good. Mm-hmm. And, I feel like he is an exciting player, but he's not a really, really good player. But he's getting better. But I still feel like they're really missing that guy, besides maybe Vucevic, because I think Vucevic is one of the best centers in this league. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I feel like they're really kind of missing the guy, at least, and especially from like the guard position. I feel like they're missing.
Well, but that's also, they had the first pick in the draft, and they picked up Cole Anthony.
Well, so. Yeah, that's true. But, but see, and that's the thing is that they knew that, so they addressed it. So that's good. You know what I mean?
Well, this isn't, or I'm not thinking of, Cole Anthony's not the guy I'm thinking of. Cole Anthony, though, that's Greg Anthony's kid.
Yeah.
So, I fully expect him to actually play pretty well. But yeah.
But, I'm just saying, like, I feel like that's where their weakness is guard play. but I feel like they're kind of they should know that. I mean, Evan Fournier is pretty solid, but again, I don't think he is. I kind of look at him as like a Chris Middleton type, where he's a really, really good second player, but if he's your main scoring or your best guard or best option in terms of the guard position on offense, it could be rough.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard. I feel like he would complement somebody a lot better than he would carry somebody.
Right.
And that's what they're missing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say that if they were to get somebody like that, they couldn't go from, okay, this team is pretty decent, to, okay, this team is actually somebody that you might not want to have to see or could make some noise if they were to get that. But without it, I just kind of look at them as a team that could very easily make it in and fight for a spot, but a first-round exit.
Right. That's what I see, too.
Although I don't see them getting in this year because, like I said, I think Washington and as well as Atlanta, two teams that we just talked about, took huge step forwards in the offseason. And I feel like Orlando is just kind of similar or the same. Lateral moves like we talked about. But not lacking talent, though. No. I mean, there's a big difference between what we're looking at here and, you know, maybe some other teams that we could mention that it just kind of feels like, well, they got some talent, but do you really see it going anywhere? I feel like they got some promise, and maybe in terms of potential, you know, their ceiling could be pretty high. If everybody gels and plays to their potential, I feel like their ceiling could be high. But just looking at the team, the way it's constructed, you know, I don't see. I mean, like the 6 teams that I mentioned before that I feel like are really going to be solid: the Heat, the Celtics, the 76ers, the Nets, the Raptors, and the Bucks. Do you give Orlando a chance against any of them?
No.
Yeah. See, that's the problem, unfortunately. And I feel like they're another example of a team that is getting better, but when everybody else is getting better, it ends up not really showing. And that's unfortunate, but that's what the league is now.
Yep. Unless
you have, you know, an all-star pairing, good luck. Or an excellent team, and then one guy that can take you over the top, you're going to have a hard time.
Yep.
So, but, you know, like I said, I think Orlando's got some promise, and I think their ceiling could be high. And if they were to bring in somebody like an all-star caliber player to that team, especially if it was like a guard, I think they could really get good fast.
Yeah.
But with this roster, I don't see it happening, unfortunately. So, with that being said, let's get into the final little segment here. How many teams do you have making the playoffs, and who's going to be the best out of the group?
Out of this division?
Yes. How many teams do you see making the playoffs, and which team's going to... I mean, I think that one's kind of obvious. Probably the Heat will be the obvious one.
Heat, I think the Heat win the division.
Yes.
I think the Hawks will come in second. And then probably the Wizards third. I think possibly 2 to 3 teams make it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to say 2 teams make it because, I mean, there's just a lot of others... a lot of other good divisions, and we'll see. I'm going to say Heat are the best, probably not even close, but I'm going to say 2, and I'm going to go with Magic and Wizards. But, you know, another thing, like I said in a past video, this is before the season starts, this is before any trades happen, and this is barring injuries. I mean, an injury to... you know, one of these teams like Trae Young tearing an ACL and being out for the season could drastically change the ceiling for the Hawks. Yeah. Or, you know, and the same goes for the Heat in some respects, you know. I mean, I feel like they've got a lot better overall team, but, you know, Bradley Beal going out for the Wizards could impact whether or not they are able to do anything. Yeah. So, barring injuries, we can't account for that. We're just saying on paper, what do we think? And so, anyways, if you guys like this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you check out our other videos where we talk about the other conferences. This is the 5th video in the series, so check out the other 4, as well as the 6th one, which will be coming out tomorrow. And so make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you like the content. Turn on all the notifications. With that being said, I'm Bryson.
I'm Steve.
See you guys in the next video.